Welcome to the City Center Podcast. I'm Jerry Marcello. West Palm Beach is on fire with new business, new growth, and breathtaking new buildings. But why is it happening in this city? What makes us so attractive? We'll explore the phenomenon and learn how developments go from the drawing board to reality. Next on the City Center Podcast. And joining us today is Armando Fana, Assistant City Administrator for the City of West Palm Beach. Armando, welcome.
Thanks, Jerry. Great to be here.
Now, West Palm Beach seems to be a favorite with world-class developers. They're all flocking here. The question that comes to mind is, why are we so popular?
Well, what's not to love, right? I mean, West Palm Beach has become almost the place to be when it comes to South Florida. Miami's been growing for a long time. It's sort of almost grown out. Fort Lauderdale and Broward County, definitely there was nowhere else to develop. West Palm Beach was always kind of the stepchild of the town of Palm Beach, and so we've stepped up on our own now, particularly post-COVID. It became just a really popular place for people to come, get out of the Northeast, get out of the cold. Even during the summertime, the COVID changed everything. Folks came here, a lot of them stayed during the hot months of the summertime where they thought it was almost unbearable, and they realized, you know what, they got air conditioning there.
Right.
Things function just the way they do in New York and maybe a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the folks that I've spoken to who have actually immigrated here from New York and other parts of the Northeast and even California realize that summers are not that much worse than they are in other places in the country, and that we have so many more amenities than what folks thought. I always like to say we're a small town with a big town amenities.
Right.
We have world-class restaurants. We've got entertainment districts. We have the Kravitz Center, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
The Norton Museum of Arts. We have a lot of amenities that towns of this size or cities of this size may not have typically. Sure. And everything is so easy to get to. I mean, no matter almost where you are in the city, you're 5 to 10 minutes away from an international airport. You're close to getting to the other cities where jumping on Brightline. Now you can go to Orlando, you can go to Fort Lauderdale, to Miami. So there's just so many options. It's very central to get to anywhere in the state.
Sure.
And it's just a attractive place to be, and I think folks have figured that out.
We always were attractive. We had many of these items that you just mentioned already in play, but it seemed, like you pointed out, that the COVID pandemic is what really sort of shined a light on West Palm Beach.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, that changed everything. It was a game changer. Unfortunately, it was a pandemic, so there's nothing positive about that.
No,
but
of course.
At the end of the day, it did bring a lot of people into this area who normally wouldn't come, especially during the summer months, and they realized that it's a great place to be all year round, not just for the winter.
So a lot of people sort of discovered West Palm Beach at that particular point. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is that not only is it a very attractive place, but it's also a good place to do business. Tell us why West Palm Beach has sort of taken that tack that we're business friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. As more people moved here and realized that this is a nice place to live all year round, I think businesses have also realized that. First of all, you have the tax advantages that all of Florida has compared to some other states where there is no state income tax. Generally, Florida is a business-friendly state as compared to some other states, and I think businesses are realizing that and flocking here in many ways. But the city of West Palm Beach in particular, when I speak with individuals who have done business here or corporations, one thing they always say is we are friendly in terms of being able to sit down with staff in the city or with the mayor and talk through ideas and what their vision is for what they want to bring to the city, and that we're open to listening and we're open in trying to make those visions come a reality within the parameters that we have in the code. But other places I've heard where it's just difficult even to get a meeting. We try to be very open. Matter of fact, we try to encourage those individuals who want to open up a business, who want to create a development opportunity, to come to us early so that we can talk through some of the challenges and some of the benefits that we may offer as a city, and identify things early on so we're not hit with surprises, or they're not hit with surprises midway through the process. So we're very open and encouraging in a sense of just having an open door policy for individuals and businesses to discuss what they want to do.
So if you want to if a developer comes to you with an idea, what's involved? What are the steps in the process of going from the drawing on the napkin
Right.
to something that's really happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. There is a multiple number of steps you take, but the first one that we try to encourage is to have a pre-development meeting, and that's where we get all of our disciplines that typically would review a project. So it would be the land management part of it. I should say the land use part of it. So development services, our city planners, the zoning, whether zoning will accommodate what they want to do, and then we also look at utilities. What types of utilities are going to need to be brought in or created for a particular project, especially large-scale projects. Do we have sufficient infrastructure to support it? What kind of traffic would this type of a use generate? So it's good to have those pre-development meetings to go over those big picture issues, and then a site plan is created by the developer. And that site plan is submitted, which then gets into more of the details. It goes from the napkin to a piece of paper
Right.
with the details, sometimes civil engineering plans that then lay out how the project will fit within the actual site,
Okay.
What types of utilities they might need, the size of the pipes, the elevations, those kind of things. And then that gets submitted again to a committee within the city that looks at it and gives comments to the developer about what things are need to be corrected potentially, or where they see might be some challenges. There's some back and forth that takes place, and depending on the size of the project, if it's a small project, that generally doesn't take very long. Larger projects could take many, many months of drawings coming in, our staff giving their opinions or their comments on them, what needs to be changed, and then they address those comments, and then there may be some back and forth for several months before there is a final site plan product that can then go through the approval process. And the approval process may depend on where it's located. In some cases it goes, for example, downtown has a downtown action committee, which is a citizen committee that actually goes through the site plan, looks at the requirements within downtown, and then decides whether or not that site plan meets the requirements of the zoning within downtown. Other districts may go to the planning and zoning board. Others may go to city commission. So it depends on the location sometimes, as well as what types of development it is and what they're looking for from the city.
Yeah.
If they provide a product or a project that is by right, that it meets the code exactly, they may not have to go through any approvals besides an administrative approval with the city staff.
So it's absolutely not an overnight process. There
No.
are many different stages.
There are.
A lot of stuff happens with the staff behind the scenes, as it were. And once it's fleshed out, then it goes through as you point out, a approval process that involves both experts and citizens that are taking part.
Correct.
So it's a long haul.
And sometimes expert citizens and elected officials. So there's times there was multiple public hearings as well.
Now, one of the things you mentioned very early in the process, there is a discussion of land use and how land is classified. And that particular point follows through the entire approval process. Tell us a little bit about how a parcel of land is marked for a certain style of building or type of building.
Right. Yeah. Good. So the city all cities are divided up into zones that are classified based on the types of use that are allowed. So, for example, you may have residential districts. I should say districts instead of zones, but residential districts. You have commercial districts. You may have a mixed-use district where you can have a little bit of both. We also have industrial areas as well. Not a whole lot here in the city of West Palm Beach, but we have a few. And then depending on the types of uses that are allowed in that specific district, that's what the developer can do. So, sometimes they're, well, why do they allow this type of project here? And it's because that's what the zoning code will allow for. So it's not like you can just plop a building in the middle of a single-family home district, for example,
Right.
or even a residential district. You may not be able to have commercial properties or projects. So, and that's a process that we go through. And it gets tweaked here and there. For example, right now we're going through the downtown master plan revision. So we've had a consultant that has come out and has been working with citizens, with other stakeholders like developers and other stakeholders throughout the city to get feedback on what modifications, if any, we should look at within our downtown and our downtown master plan. And that will determine some things like uses, but also setback requirements. So how far a building or a structure is set back from the street, things like height, different zoning requirements that periodically need to be revisited as the city grows, the city changes, our population changes. Right. We need to, probably every 10 years, you need to be looking at your zoning code to see what changes need to be made.
What limitations do we have on buildings that may be not suitable for our landscape? Like someone comes to you and says, we want to build a 75-floor building. What would happen then?
Well, it depends on the depends on the location. A lot of it. Right. So downtown, there's a lot more flexibility because we want a dense downtown. That's another thing I think people need to understand is part of the strategy with any urban area is to create density within that urban area, so that you have a multitude of uses within that density, so that individuals can live, work, and play within that same general zone, and that's generally going to be urban downtown. So, as folks. You hear sometimes the complaints about getting in and out of downtown traffic-wise, right? But the whole idea is to create that density in downtown. And we have right now more residents within downtown than we've ever had. So we have people who are living downtown, who are working downtown, who never even have to get into a car. So creating that is ideal. But yes, if you want to build a structure that is not allowable under the zoning code, whether that's because of the way it's shaped or the height or the type of use, then it just simply gets rejected. Now, there are some times where you can get a variance, which is built into the code, the process for getting a variance and where variances may occur. As an example, if you are proposing a building on a irregular sized lot or odd shaped lot where our zoning code is just it's not conducive to something getting built on that lot, then you can request a variance for the setbacks from the sidewalk, or there might be other landscaping, or there might be other variances that you can request because otherwise that lot may sit empty for a very long time. Right. And so that's the reason for variances. It's not a way really to get around the code. It's meant for when there is a difficulty with a particular site to be able to develop it because of its shape, because of where it's located. So there has to be some flexibility built into the code. Otherwise, you'd have a lot of parcels that would get undeveloped or underdeveloped, which is not good for the city. Not good for the city in the terms of not just the tax base that's created when you have a new project, but not good for even like how the citizens interact with the city. We're very mindful about how buildings look, how they interact with the public realm. And so you need to have some flexibility to make sure you can make these tweaks, or the developer can make the tweaks working with the city to make the best possible product for that site. Because there's generally not 100% one size fits all.
Right. You mentioned residents and the public. What sort of voice do they have in the decision-making process as far as buildings are concerned?
So that's a great question, because we get that a lot. I mean, we have the downtown master plan process that I talked about that is occurring now. We've had extensive outreach on that, and we've had great participation, both citizens coming to feedback meetings. We've had online polls that have been done, surveys, I should say, to get that feedback from the public on those changes into the downtown master plan. And then when there's variances requests that come in from a project, if they have to go through a public approval process, and most variances do, either through one of the citizen boards or through the city commission. Number one, the boards are made up of citizens who have been appointed, but they also use typically as an opportunity there for public comment. So citizens can come out and voice their concerns or their or maybe their support for a project, both at these boards, whether it's the Downtown Action Committee or Planning and Zoning Board, or they can do it at the City Commission and provide their opinion there. But, it's important for folks to understand that the best time to do the comments is when we are going through a code or a zoning change like we are now with the Downtown Master Plan, because once it is set in the code, as long as the developer is developing within those parameters that are in the code, then the citizen even the elected official has very limited ability to stop or to impact a development, because they are by right allowed to do that development. So it's important for folks to get involved at that stage.
Right.
And the reason we have elected officials is they're representing the citizens, right? So some of it you have to leave it up to your elected officials and their judgment, if you voted for them, to make some of those decisions as well.
We've talked a little bit about the downtown master plan. Go into exactly what that is, and is there still time for people to have their input into that plan?
Yeah, we're pretty far into the process. We've had a lot of input so far, but we do have several public hearings that will be left. One of them will be the Downtown Action Committee. There's actually going to be a presentation at our August, I believe, yes, our August Mayor Commission workshop that will then provide some opportunities for people to at least hear what's the input that we've received so far and some of the recommendations that are potentially going to come out, and then they can provide input on those recommendations. We may even I believe we may have a website as well. We can link that up on this show to find out. People can give input that way.
Right.
But the downtown master plan is basically like a roadmap that sets the rules for developers on what they can construct and the land use and the setback requirements, and what are the general building requirements or land use requirements within downtown. It's a form-based, meaning that kind of is what it is. There's not a lot of variances or things that are allowed within downtown because it's already built to be flexible. As I said, the idea of a dense urban area is to create that place where you can live, work, and play, a mix of uses. While you're here, you have residential, you have commercial, you have entertainment districts. There's just a lot of things happening in downtown. You have obviously recreational parks, green space. So there's a combination of things happening right now in downtown that are exciting. One is the downtown master plan, and the other is the Waterfront Your Way effort that is underway as well, which is providing the input that we've gotten from citizens on our waterfront in downtown and what folks want to see there, activation of the waterfront. Some folks want to leave it as it is, more green space, more shade. We've gotten a lot of feedback, and there'll be a presentation coming soon on that effort as well, and people will still have opportunities to provide input. And one great way to have input is through your representatives. So we have our commissioners, our district commissioners, and if you voice your opinion on what you want through them, they generally will act as the voice for their district and their citizens, as well as the mayor, who's open to input from his citizens.
And so if you're a resident and you're not sure who your representatives are, who your commissioner is, you can find it out on the website at WPB.org.
That's correct. We have all the commission districts listed there.
Fantastic. What's a bigger hot button, water or traffic?
That's a great question. I'd probably say traffic right now. Traffic is one I hear about all the time, although there is concerns about water. One of the more common questions when I hear about a development being questioned by citizens, maybe the density of it, how big it is, as well, do we have enough water to maintain all this growth or to keep up with all this growth? And the answer is yes. We have our water capacity has been evaluated, and based on current growth trends, we're good for at least another 50 years when it comes to our water capacity. We have applied and have gotten approval for a permit through the South Florida Water Management District, which will allow for additional capacities and, more importantly, more of a diverse source of water. Right now, our water comes from surface water, Lake Okeechobee, Grassy Waters Preserve, and then our lakes here in downtown. We are exploring the opportunity to be able to use what's called the Floridan well, which is a deep well system that is used throughout Florida, particularly in areas south of here, which will diversify our water sources and provide us another source of water for well into the future. And better to not have all your eggs in one basket. We will have multiple ways to access water. So we're good with water. The one area that we have to look at, and we do evaluate when a new project comes in, is the age of our infrastructure that transports the water, right? So we're constantly looking at that, evaluating the condition and age of our distribution system for water and wastewater, making those upgrades. And as developers come in, they typically will have to foot the bill to make those types of upgrades when their project requires, let's say, a larger pipe size, whether it's water or wastewater. they have to pay for that. Sometimes we'll kind of share in cost to extend a new water line to an area that then will benefit well into the future for other developments that may come. So it's a bit of a shared process when it comes to the private sector and the public sector. And then with traffic, traffic is a challenge everywhere in South Florida.
No doubt.
You know, I think it also depends on where you're coming from, right? I moved here 10 years ago from Broward County. I was working in Miami-Dade County, and you know, this is a delight compared to those two counties when it comes to traffic. We don't want to get to where they were. So
Right.
we've actually just in the process recently of updating our downtown mobility plan, which lays out within downtown how to increase capacity potentially, how to move people, not just cars, move people around downtown more efficiently, and identify the areas where there are especially roads where there's a lot of traffic and traffic is being jammed up. How do we alleviate that? One way we're looking at is opening up Fern Street to a crossing. Right now, there's only two ways to get into downtown: Okeechobee Boulevard and Banyan. We're looking at a third option, which is Fern Street. That would then be a third way you can get in through Australian Avenue to enter downtown. That would help alleviate some traffic. We've already gotten some preliminary permits for that. That's probably a 5-year project to get it all complete. We're getting ready to award a contract to a provider who will provide us with mobility services. We used to have a trolley downtown. A lot of folks remember the trolley, may have nostalgia for the trolley. Well, we're going to have trolley 2.0, and not just to move people around downtown, but a system that'll move people in and out of downtown. So we're really excited. It's the most resources the city has ever put into mobility within the city. So I think the residents will be really excited once they see the final product, and we expect the very late part of this year, early part of 2025, early 2026, to be able to start launching that new service that will bring people in and out of downtown and within downtown, and help alleviate some of the traffic. But traffic is it's really a county-wide issue, and we are working also with our partners in the county and other municipalities. There's an effort right now to create a county-wide mobility plan. The city is participating in that effort, which will lay out what are some of the improvements that can be done on a county-wide basis, because when you're traveling, it doesn't matter what the lines are between cities. Your traffic is the traffic. Yeah. And so we want to make sure that we're working in conjunction with our neighbors to the south and to the north, and as well as the county, to implement strategies, implement systems that will move people more efficiently, not just within the city, but in and out of the city.
It seems like most of our discussion here is forward-looking, things that will be coming up in the next 2 or 3 years. Let's take a second, look into our crystal ball. What do you think is going to be happening for next year as far as our development and the thriving businesses we see, and what's going to be happening 5 years from now? Will the trend continue? Will we be as successful as we've been over the past 5 years?
Right. Yeah, I think the long-term trends are good. There's a lot of uncertainty right now in global markets and U.S. markets in terms of where the economy's headed. So you see a little bit of hesitation when I talk to folks who are looking to invest in the area. But they're still coming. And a lot of the projects that we see going up now are projects that came in 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago. As I said, sometimes that development process is a long process, not just internally for us reviewing everything that comes in, but even for the developers themselves. They have to line up the financing. They have to get assurances from the contractors that are going to be building. So it's a very long process for them too, particularly large projects. So some of the things you're seeing going up now were approved 2 years ago. There's a little bit less activity in terms of new applications that are coming in now. So we may have a bit of a pause or breather, I should say, which is not a bad thing even for the city to catch up with some of the work that we have. And that's how things go. They go in cycles. But I think the long-term trends here are very positive. Folks are continuing to have a great interest in investing and coming here. As you know, you hear the news and folks are still worried about what's happening politically in some other parts of the country, and want to come here because of the tax situation, because of the political situation. They feel like it's a more business-friendly environment and a great place to bring up your family. So are there challenges? Yes. affordability is a challenge. As we become more popular, obviously it becomes harder to afford housing, afford even a business and opening up a business. So that is a challenge as demand goes up. That the affordability part of it gets harder, which then decreases demand. So these are balances in the market that kind of ebb and flow. But I think we're still in an upward trend, and although we may have a little bit of a flattening for a couple years, the long-term trends look very good.
Right.
There's still so much interest in this area and investing here. I constantly hear from individuals who are thinking about moving to this area or thinking about relocating a business. And so, and as more people come and move here and they love it, they'll continue to tell their family and friends, "Hey, come visit me," and that just like it just kind of perpetuates itself as people come here. Every time I moved here, I moved back here. I grew up here, and I moved back here about 10 years ago. And every time I bring guests in from out of town, they love it. They think this is the greatest thing. They love our waterfront.
Yeah.
They love just the how close everything is, and even though we locals complain about traffic, the folks who are coming from other places think this is great in terms of traffic. So I think the long-term trends are fantastic.
Well, on that note, thank you for this look inside the process, how we plan, how things turn into the buildings and the future of our city here. Thank you for the time that you've spent doing this. Thank you for giving this view, and thanks for everything you do for the city.
Thank you. Thank you to the citizens who are watching and listening. I hope you continue to enjoy our city and bring your friends and family over so we can continue to grow.
And thank you for joining us for the City Center podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to like and subscribe. We have a lot more great content coming your way. The podcast is a production of the City of West Palm Beach Communications Department. I'm Jerry Marcello. We'll see you next time.